Alrighty, let's see if this is actually working. Feel free to say hi once you get here, if anyone's online. Hello, hello, hello. Sumo, Jeffrey, Jessica. Have a few people here. Hopefully we'll have a few more coming. Posting the link far and wide. And, oh, yay. Yes. I did not know there were music emojis, but I approve wholeheartedly. Anyone else who's just arrived, feel free to say hi so I know who's here. 4 people on, I guess 4 includes me, so that works. Hey, Jason. I don't know that you need this one, but you're welcome here. Although as a trumpet player, you may need some chord theory, so who knows? Great. Okay, looks like the links are everywhere. Now, let's see. Does anyone know if there's a way if I can switch between live stream and desktop? Because that would be great. I don't know how to do that. I really do need chord theory. Well, I mean, all of us need chord theory a little bit. If you're not a pianist or a guitarist, I think we could all use a little bit more chord theory. It's kind of a bit much. Okay. Link. Ask Ben. Yeah, Ben doesn't use YouTube. He set me up with another software, which just was not working. So I just went straight for the YouTube streaming. But cast up on YouTube Live. I guess I don't want to cast it. I just want to stream it. Need third-party software. Damn it! Eh, there lots of music emojis. I appreciate the music emojis. It is awesome. No, I can't screen share. Damn it. Uh, okay. I hmm, okay. I will have to just explain things and then play things. So we'll see how that goes. Oh, there's 8 people. Who else is here? I only count one, two, three, four, five. Feel free to say hi in the chats. Also, for those of you who are new here to the theory classes, feel free to ask any questions as we go. I might answer them as we go, or it might be something I'm covering later on. Yeah, I could do Zoom, but it's easier to just use YouTube. And that way I can also upload it so people can watch it if they can't be here. Oh, hi, Caitlin. Okay, so when I left you last, we were at, excuse me, intervals. Well, we just finished off scales and we'd finished off the circle of fifths. So does anyone have any questions? Um, or is there anything that they had troubles with or want a refresher on about chords or key signatures? I could have a mirror and show us the desktop. I could actually. That'd be kind of funny, but it would be backwards, wouldn't it? I guess I'm not sure. But also walking, not my strong suit right now. I'm trying to think if I can do print screen and post it in the comments. That would be interesting. I cannot do that. Well, that sucks. Or can I? No, that's just a damn it. Hmm. Oh well. I will post the slides. Yes, to me. No, that's too complex and I can't move or carry big things. So that's just not happening. So what I'm going to do is I will just print screen the slides as we go, and I will upload them to the website or to the choir page, or the event page is probably the best way to do it. So I will find today's date, April 16th, and I will start posting. I will post them one at a time as we go onto the event page for today. Just keep in mind there's 4 separate event pages. So we're going to start off with intervals. So intervals, an interval is the distance in pitch between 2 notes. So if the intervals are played at the same time, that's called a harmonic interval. And if they're played one after the other, the interval is melodic. So if you're making a harmony, you're going to do 2 things at the same time. If you're playing a melody, you're going to do 2 things separately. Easy way to remember it. So an interval is any distance between 2 notes. Yeah, I can upload the slides from last one. Do you need that right now, or is it okay if I do it after we're done? Let me know if there's like a 30-second delay between when you post and when I see things and can respond. So fair enough. Okay. The size of the interval is measured by the number of notes from one note to the other, which includes both notes. So I think everyone here is from choir afterwards. Okay, great. So when we do the warm ups of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the distance between 1 and 2 is a second. The distance between 1 and 3 is a third. The distance between 1 and 4 is a fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and so on. So when you start at 1, go 1, 2, 3. So it's the interval is a third because you start at 1 and you end on 3, if that kind of makes sense. So the difference between 1 and 7, you start at the first note you're singing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so that's a seventh. Does that hopefully all that makes sense? It's something that is kind of complicated, but when you think about it, makes a lot more sense. I will post this slide now because it actually has a lovely picture on it. Um, so in a major scale, remember we talked about the major scales, which have that same pattern: tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. And I'll post the link to the event page for today, just in case you're trying to find it. So go there if you want to see the slides as we go, or you can split screen it or whatever. Because I apparently can't split screen; that would be too difficult. I can't screen share at all, which is done. Do 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 do. See discussion. Is it come? Okay, great. So the an interval in a major chord of a second, a third, a sixth, and a seventh are called major intervals because it's going according to the major scale. So 1 to 3 in a major scale is a major third, and then a fourth and a fifth and an octave. So 4, 5, and 8 are perfect. Now, people ask what the reason is for that. Is It's what's known as the harmonic scale, which I'm not going to get into. But if you've ever like played a trumpet and not pressed any of the keys, or a tuba or a trombone or anything, you're going to be able to play a series of notes. It's like one of those tubes where you spin it, and the faster you spin it, the higher it goes. It always makes Mason can answer this question. He'll know it better as a brass player. But so those are all these intervals that appear in nature. So they're the ones that uh, appear in the pentatonic scale. It's what birds sing. It's all of these intervals that happen everywhere. So they are a fourth, a fifth, and an octave. So 4, 5, and 8 are what are known as perfect intervals. So 2, 3, 6, and 7 are major intervals if they're the ones in the major scale. Is all that making sense so far? Hopefully that is going to make sense. It'll get a little more complicated in a sec. But again, feel free to ask questions as we go. All right. Do, 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 do. Okay, so we always assume that the lower note between the two is the one, which is the tonic. So if you play one note and then you play a note that's lower than it, we always start from the bottom and then we go up. So if this is the starting note, even if this note was played first, we start here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're at a perfect fifth. So that's always where we start from. Whatever's on the bottom wins. Insert joke here. Okay, that slide. One more slide going up. So yeah, the unison. So if you're playing the same note twice, that's known as a unison. So it is also it is considered an interval, and it is also considered perfect. It's just when you play the same note twice, not up an octave. It has to be the exact same note 2 times, and that's also known as a perfect unison. If that makes sense. Cool. Everybody's getting it. I'm loving this. Great. Um, if you don't, please tell me. So yeah, second, third, sixth, and seventh are major intervals, and we always assume the lower note is the tonic. So if we take any of the major intervals and we lower them by 1 semitone, they become a minor interval. So instead of 1 to 2, if we only go 1 to, if we lower that by 1 semitone, instead of being a major second, it's now a minor second. Same thing with the third. If we go up 1, 2, 3, and then we lower the third by 1 semitone, it's not a major third, it's now a minor third. And that works for all of our major intervals. So minor second, minor third, minor 6, minor 7. sense. Do, 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 do. I'll post that slide too. So there's a picture that shows what is a major second versus a minor second, minor third, minor sixth, major sixth, minor seventh, major seventh. So hopefully all that is making sense so far. Feel free to ask any questions or be like, I have no idea what this crazy. No, I can't swear because I marked this video as safe for kids and they'll pull it off. Okay, so the next one is a quiz. I am going to post that just so that it's a really good practice to kind of figure out how everything works. So most of these are in C major, but some of them aren't, and some of them are in bass clef. So it's a good idea to kind of figure out where you're at with your key signatures and where you're at with your major and minor intervals. So it is an exercise. It's a really good one just to kind of take your time and stack them and be like, okay, where's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, but this one's down a little bit. So um, this is, a minor 6 instead of a major 6. So it's a really worthwhile exercise to try it out, because it doesn't really become second nature until you do it a lot. So it's a good one to practice. And there's lots of apps for this kind of stuff of like naming notes and naming intervals. And the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature. It's kind of like learning a language, is just knowing the rules don't really help when the time comes. You have to get faster at it. So that is the one thing I don't have a slide for, but I will just mention, is all of your perfect intervals. So your unison, well, you can't diminish a unison. That's not really a thing. But your perfect fourth, your perfect fifth, and octave, not so much. When you lower them by a semitone, uh, you're right. They're not starting on C. They're starting on whatever their tonic is. So now that you know all of the major key signatures, if the first note is, say, an F, you have to assume it's F major. So you have to go up the scale of F and find out, is it, number 5, number 6, number 7? Is it 7, but it's a semitone lower? Is it 8, but it's a semitone lower? So that's why we always say the lowest note is the tonic. So if the lowest note is B, then we're in B major. If the lowest note is D, then we're in D major. So you start there, find your key signature. So um, if it's D major, it's like, okay, what is the key of D major? How many sharps or flats? But okay, there's 2 sharps in D major. And then we go up, we start at D, and then when we get to this one, okay, this is 5 above D in the key, so that's a perfect fifth. Or it's semitone lower, so it's um, fourths and fifths, as I said, if we take them down a semitone, are a diminished. So we don't call them minor, we call them a diminished fourth or a diminished fifth. And you can raise them as well, and then they become augmented, but we don't use those. Um, but a diminished fourth is a major third, because reasons. And same thing, a diminished octave is a major seventh. If there, that's another thing that, like, because like E sharp is F natural and F flat is E natural. It's just because there are those spaces on the keyboard that have 2 white notes next to each other. Just the way music works out. Got to be different somehow. So that's all I'm going to talk about for intervals for now. Does that make sense so far? Is everyone kind of understanding what an interval is, how to figure one out? Uh, and harmonic equivalents. We went over that one last week. So they're not referred to as enharmonic equivalents when they're intervals. We just don't use diminished fourth. It's not really a thing. I mean, it could technically exist, but it's a major third. In virtually every time we're using it, it's a major third. We don't use a diminished octave. The diminished fifth, So if you take the fifth down a semitone, that's what's known as the tritone. Um, so it was known in the medieval period as il diavolo in musici, which is the devil in music, and it was actually forbidden to be used. And it's the Simpsons interval. It is also Maria from West Side Story. Maria, I just met a girl named Maria. Yeah. Anyway, so that is known as the tritone. So it is an augmented fourth or a diminished fifth, and it is very crunchy sounding. It's our ears don't like it. It sounds very kind of tense and weird. Um, but that's kind of the weird interval. If you're like, I don't like that interval, it's probably a tritone. So fun times. And yeah, the Catholic Church banned it for hundreds of years because they were afraid of an interval. So does anyone want me to play anything? Does anyone want to hear anything or have any questions about intervals at all? While I wait, I'm going to get the next stuff up because that is time signatures. Now I'll put the next slide up as well if you want to see it. Oh, come on, post. Okay, no one is posting anything, so I'm hoping we're doing okay. So we're going to move on next to time signatures. I just posted the slide for that. So obviously, music exists in the dimension of time, and time is measured by recurring pulses or beats. Um, so some beats can be stronger than other beats, and a beat that is stronger is called an accented beat or just an accent. So it's like dun 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 dun. So the one that you emphasize more than the others is accented, or you put an accent on it. So beats are grouped together in groups of two or three or four or really any number, but two, three, and four are the most common. And a group of beats together is called a bar or a measure. That we're all doing okay. Again, there are no dumb questions. This is all very new. I'm going to post another slide now. No, I don't want to boost my posts. Facebook. Okay, so in a time signature, you will have the bars or measures, as we called it, and each bar is separated by a bar line. So it's just a single vertical line that separates each bar. It lets you know that bar is over and we're on to a new one. A double bar line, which is a thin line followed by a thick line, is at the end of a piece. Or, if you have multiple pieces like movements within a piece of music, it notes the end of a movement. So, like, we're done this thing and we're going to do something else. So, yeah, you can see in the image that we have a bar line and a double bar line. So the term measure or bar is abbreviated as a lowercase m, and the plural for measures is abbreviated as both lowercase. Where are the slides? Yeah, there's a link I posted up a little bit to the event page, and on the event page, I'm posting the slides as we go. So if you can't see them, let me know, and I will. And again, if you're not getting them, or there's a problem, or you want to ask me questions after the fact, just message me. I'm happy to help with any of that. Or if you want more exercises or apps or whatever, go right for it. Okay. So the number of beats in a measure is going to stay the same. It's kind of like a key signature. A key signature stays the same throughout the piece unless you see a new key signature. Time signature is the same. A time signature is going to stay the same until you have another time signature. So if you're going along at 4/4, it's going to stay that way for the whole piece unless suddenly you see 3/4. It's like, okay, now we're at 3/4 and we stay at 3/4 from that point forward. So again, unless acted upon by an external force, it's going to stay the same. See, music is like physics. So a time signature is placed at the beginning of the music. So we have the clefs that we talked about, which says, where the music is going to be. And then we have the key signature, which tells us what key we're going to be in. And then after that, we have the time signature. So at the beginning of every piece, you will see a clef, then you'll see a key signature, and then you'll see a time signature. Um, and at no other time unless something is about to change. So a key signature is usually written on every single line. So every line you're like, what key are we in? Right, we're that one. So they assume that musicians aren't paying attention and always have to check in, which is a correct assumption because we're not paying attention to the key. The key signature is put there every single line so that you remember it. The time signature is not. So the time signature appears at the beginning of the piece, and assuming nothing changes, it won't appear ever again. If you're changing keys, oftentimes they will write the previous key, or sorry, previous time signature right next to the new time signature, just so you remember kind of what was happening. But oftentimes they'll just have a small double bar line and then the new time signature, so that you know you're doing something else. Okey. So the way to read a time signature is you have a number on the top and you have a number on the bottom. The number on the top indicates how many beats are there in a bar, and the bottom number indicates what type of note is a beat. So the easiest way I found to remember this is like a fraction. So if you have 4/4, you have 4 quarters. So that's usually the easiest way. So 4 quarter notes in a bar. So it's because a fraction is 4/4, so that is 4 quarters. And that 4 quarter notes in a bar, or 3 quarters, or if you have 6/8, so it's 6/8 notes in every bar, or the equivalent. And so if you have 4/4, that means the beats are going to be quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whereas in 6/8, the eighth notes are going to be the beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. So each beat is going to be measured a little bit differently. And it'll usually say what the tempo is going to be. So it'll be like quarter note equals 72. And 72 is how many beats a minute. So it'll be 72 beats in a minute, which is a little bit faster than like a second hand on a watch or on a clock. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. This is about it. 2, 4. But if you're playing eighth notes at that beat, it'll be dun 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 dun, because the beat is on the quarter note and not on the eighth. That all make sense so far? I know I'm going a little bit fast and just kind of breezing through stuff, so please let me know if anything is remotely unclear, or you don't know what's happening, or you have any questions. So these these kind of time signatures are referred to as meters as well. So when you have a 2 count in in a time signature like 2/4, it's referred to as duple meter. So duple being 2. And then 3/4 is a triple meter, like a waltz. And so it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So triple meter or quadruple meter, which is 4. So most of the time signatures you're going to see are going to be 2/4, 3/4, or 4/4. Um, Another common one is 6/8, and that's usually done the way that you'll usually sing or play it is going to be two groups of three. So it's usually 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Um, so it's kind of waltzy as well, and it's usually done as a triple meter because you're doing it in groups of three. even though there are two beats. Anyway, you can do that either way, actually. It goes both ways. So, so the types of notes we have. Why aren't you posting? You need to happen, but you can theoretically have a 1 at the bottom of a time signature, which means there's one whole note. Like the beat is whole notes, so you're beating on every whole note. I've literally never seen this happen. Theoretically is possible. 2, you can sometimes see, it's a little rarer, but that means a half note gets beat. So every time you're beating, it's a half note. Little more common, but still very, very uncommon. Uh, 4 represents a quarter note. It's again like fractions. It's, one whole, one half, or two halves, or 4 quarters, or 3 quarters. 8 represents an eighth note, so an eighth note gets the beat. You could even have like a 4/8, so you'll have 4 eighth note beats. Is 2/2 and 4/2? Yes. So 2/2 and 4/4 will have the same amount of notes in a bar, but when you're beating, you're going to be counting half notes for 2/2, and you're going to be counting quarter notes for 4/4. But they'll have the same amount of like 4 quarter notes will fill a bar of either of those, but the beat is going to be on uh, twice as often in a 4/4 bar. And yeah, that happens a lot. I've even seen like 8/8, which is weird. Like you'll see 3/4 and you'll see 6/8, and they are technically the same, but usually with 3/4 you're counting in threes, and usually with 6/8 you're counting in twos. So 3/4 you're doing 3 counts of 2, and usually in 6/8 you're doing 2 counts of 3. Um, you can alternate it actually in the same piece and just change emphasis. This is something that's more advanced. I wasn't going to get into this, but hell, let's do it. You can alternate that just from bar to bar. So if you've ever seen West Side Story and listened to the song America, they do this and they alternate emphasis every bar. So it's in 6/8, but it's I want to be in America. Okay, by me in America. Everything's free in America for a small fee in America. I love that one. That one's really fun. So it's the same beat. It's still dun, 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 but the beat is dun, 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 dun. So fun way of subdividing. Leonard Bernstein had a lot of fun with that. And when you do that and you change the emphasis, that's known as hemiola. I'll type it out just because it's a weird word in the chat. You don't need to know that for this level, but it's a fun thing. And you can go online and find cool examples of people doing this. It is something I really love because yeah, you can just keep the same time signature, but just change the emphasis. Put the emphasis on the different syllables and fun things can happen. Does that answer everyone's questions, or is there anything else people are unsure about? I'm posting another slide. And this is just some examples of different time signatures and how many beats are in there and how many notes kind of fit within that structure. So the first one is 2/4, so you have 2 quarters in each bar. The next one is 3/8, so there are 3 eighth notes. And then there's 6/4, so there are 6 quarter notes in each bar. And they're all subdivided different ways, so you can kind of get an idea of what fits into a bar. Um, Jessica, I'm not sure if I understand your question. So, you you can change the way that something is written in the beat. I mean, if you were going to be really, really pedantic about it, you would write 1 bar is 3/4, 1 bar is 6/8, 1 bar is 3/4, 1 bar is 6/8, just because the emphasis is changing. Um, because technically the beats are falling in different places, but you're still going to count it the same way just because it's easier. Um, yeah, does that make sense? I mean, it's more important for the conductor because or if you have a metronome in front of you, that the beat is counting like this. But you could have all sorts of stuff happening around that, where like a lot of jazz only happens on offbeats. So the conductor can be sitting there doing this, and the whole orchestra could be bum, 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 bum. And then all the beats are happening in offbeats. But you're still counting. You're still having that same pulse of where the music is going. So it's, yeah, just a way of keeping time. Jazz does love its offbeats. So yeah, have a look at those time signatures and the examples there. And yeah, there's lots of time signature ones too. So you can see, okay, well, there's this many beats in a bar. They're subdivided this way. This is how the beat is going. So it's probably this time signature. The only other one I will mention is 4/4 is the most common time signature. It's the one we see by far the most. We see really like things in 4. So it is also known as common time. And sometimes at the beginning of the piece, you will just see a C, and C stands for common. So sometimes in pieces, instead of writing 4/4, they'll just write a C, and you know that it's common time. Conducting music full of offbeats is challenging. It really is. Um, but usually jazz isn't conducted, so that makes it a little easier. Wait till you get into pushes. That's even more fun. If this keeps going for a while and I have to do jazz theory, things are gonna get weird. Jazz theory is crazy because you get into chord substitutions where you can play a totally different chord instead of the chord you wanted to play, and it's somehow still the original chord, even though you're in a totally different key signature. And jazz is weird. I did not do well in jazz theory. Bad things happened. There was screaming and swearing and tears when I did jazz theory. Okay. So that's all we're going to do for time signatures. Does anyone have any questions about that? Next up, we are going into chords. Ooh. This is where we separate the pianists from literally everyone that's not a pianist. Okay, you want to try really. Okay, I may try Discord next time, but we'll see. It worked last time. I don't know what's happening this time, so I'll check my settings. It just didn't have enough time today, but we'll check settings for next time. Cool. So chords. Let's face up here. That is technically a chord, actually. The fun part is naming that chord, because you can literally put any note in any chord and it will have a name. Okay. So a chord is the name given to any three or more I can talk. 3 or more notes sounded simultaneously. So 2 notes is an interval. So you can, if you play them at the same time, they're still just an interval. 3 notes is a chord, 3 or more. Um, so the most common chord that you will encounter is a triad. So 3 notes. And yeah, that's this. And a triad is 3 notes built on thirds. So if you're playing in a regular C major chord, or any major chord, it's 1, 3, and 5. So we talked about the scales again. So the difference between 1 and 3. So if we play 1, 3, and 5, that's a triad. Play them together. Here, I'll see if I can get to my hands here. So 1, 3, 5. And Mina is waking up because playing the piano next to her face. So that is a triad. Is there a dabbing emoji? I'm so disappointed. Okay, so this is where things are going to get a little more interesting. If you don't understand it right away, I can re-explain it a few different ways, but just stay with me because this part is really cool and this part is kind of how you understand chords. So, a triad can be built on any degree of a major or minor scale. So that means we can start the cough in your elbow emoji. That's true. Oh, yes, everyone said. There's Mina. She just had a long fetch. Hi, Poops. What's that? Oh, there's no one here. It's no one at the door. Got excited there. She had a long fetch, so now she's having a nap. She is very content. Okay, so a chord can be built on any degree of a major or minor scale. So that means we can start on any note. We can start on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4, on 5, and 6, and build a triad off of that. So the note that is at the bottom, the note that we build the chord on, is the root of the triad. So the root is whatever the lowest note is, and then we build from there. So like an interval, we always start from the bottom, and so we grade that as the root of the chord, as we would for an interval. We start at the bottom and go up always. So the next note is a diatonic third above the root. So it's not a major third. It's if we start on so if we play on 1, we're going to do 1 3 5 in that scale. But if we start on 2, we're going to do 2 4 6. So we're just going to keep going in that scale. And then if we start on 3, it's 3 5 7 and then 4 6 8 in within that scale, within that key that we're in. So that's kind of where things can get a little confusing. So I'm going to go over that in detail just so we know exactly what I'm talking about here. So hopefully we can all see what I'm doing. So let's see if I can get this a little higher so you can get a better view. So we have 1, 3, 5. So this is a 1 chord in C major. If we start on 2, that's 2 4 6, and that's a 2 chord. Then 3 5 7 is a 3 chord. 4 6 8 is a 4 chord. 5 7 2 is a 5 chord. 6 8 no 3. I guess it'd be 6 1 3 depending how you look at it. Is a 6 chord. 7 2 4 is a 7 chord, and then we're back to 1. So maybe demonstrate on the piano. Good idea. I should demonstrate on the piano. So I'm going to pause there for a second. Does that make sense when we're talking about a chord? So when we talk about a 1 chord, a 2 chord, a 3 chord, a 4 chord, that's what we're talking about. Is a 4 chord starts on the 4th degree of the scale. So we start on 4 and we play the triad building on 4 in that key. So we play 4 and then 6 and then 8 or 1. 8 and 1 are interchangeable. So when you talk about like the 4 chord song and it goes 1 4 1 5 6 4, and we say every pop song is built on that, that's what we're talking about. It's 1 5 6 4. And so it's the chord that's built on that degree of the scale. And it's the same thing with any major and any minor scale, is we're always starting on that note in the scale and then going up that scale that we're already in. So we don't change it. That's a 1 chord, a 2 chord, a 3 chord, a 4 chord, a 5 chord, a 6 chord, a 7 chord, and well, there's no 8 chord, it's the 1 chord in C major. Everyone getting me so far? Because if we're not understanding this, the rest of it is not going to make sense. So feel free to ask any questions, ask for me to do something again, all that kind of stuff. So I am going to show what the sheet music looks like for this. Yeah, now that you know this, you can play like just about any song you want once you just know how the chords go. And this is how we do warm-ups too, because we always start on, you know, one in each key. And so we just go one, and then we sing the warm-up, and then two, so we're one in a different key, one in a different key, and so on as we keep going up and down the scales. It is fun. The seven chord is interesting. Boy, are you going to love jazz. If we get to jazz theory, if you like seven chords, you're going to like the jazz, or like jazz theory, because there is a lot of a lot of sevens in jazz. So did I post this already? Back. Okay. So if you're looking at if you can go to the slide I just posted about the triads. So if you see, we're still in C major here, and the chord that's built on 1, 4, and 5 make up major chords. So they have a major third and a perfect fifth in them. So if we have tonic, major third above that, perfect fifth at the top, that is a major triad. So here, 1, here is 4, and here is 5. So in a major scale, the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord are major chords. Just the way it works out. Hopefully that makes sense. And 1, 4, and 5 together work out what are called primary triads. So this is where I know someone asked last week about Roman numerals. This is where Roman numerals become important because we number chords using Roman numerals. So a major chord uses an uppercase Roman numeral, and a minor chord uses a lowercase Roman numeral. So if you look at the slide I just posted, 1, 4, and 5 are listed as 1, 4, and 5 in Roman numerals, and they are in uppercase. That's how you know what a major chord looks like. So, the capital 4 is this guy, and if it's a minor, if it's lowercase, you know immediately that it's minor. Makes it a little more interesting. Okay, so the number identifies the scale degree, that is the root of the chord. So 4 means we're starting on number 4 in the scale. 5 means we're starting on 5. So 5 and then 7 and then 2. Math. So major triads have uppercase Roman numeral, and minor triads are lowercase Roman numeral. So, oh wait, nope. So for major scales, here I'll just post this. Mina, shh. Sorry, Mike just came home. So Mina got very excited. So now we'll post all of the triads in a major scale. And just posted, oh, it's just uploading now. Okay, so just posted that slide. So you can see again, 1, 4, and 5 are major, and then 2, 3, and 6 are minor. 7 you can see is lowercase, and then that has that little degree sign next to it. That's because 7 is actually diminished. So if you're doing a minor triad, it means the second note in the triad is a semitone lower. So instead of this, you have this. What's that? Yes, I know. I said instead of this, you have this. That's what makes it minor. Whereas with 7, if we're playing 7 in C major, both notes are lowered by one semitone because we want it to be this, right? So diminished means that the third note in the triad the second note and the third note in the triad are both one semitone lower. So so major is this, minor is this, and then diminished is this. Hopefully that makes sense. And then that little degree sign next to the lowercase means diminished. All of that making sense so far. Feel free to say yes or no, or you're super confused, or none of this is making sense. Ask me to redo anything you like, and I'm happy to explain as much as I can. So you'll see again the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord in a major scale are major, 2, 3, and 6 are minor, and 7 is diminished. And you can see that by uppercase versus lowercase Roman numerals. Maybe? Okay. So we'll have a look there. I'll try this one more time. So we start in C major. And where's a good spot? So major chord. And we just go up the scale. Minor chord on 2, then 3, minor chord, major chord on 4, my major chord on 5, minor chord on 6, diminished chord on 7th, and then we're back to 1. So on a major chord, we have a perfect third, or sorry, a major third in the first triad, and then we have, or as the second note, and then we have a perfect fifth as the third note. Sorry. We have the tonic of the chord, then we have a major third, then we have a perfect fifth, and that makes up a major triad. If we take the third and we lower it down 1 semitone, so we have tonic, minor third, perfect fifth, then we have a minor chord. If we have tonic, and sorry, if we lower the fifth down 1 semitone, so diminished, we have that tritone again we were talking about, and we have the tonic and a minor third, then a tritone, we have a diminished triad. So it's all just making these intervals a little smaller to change them. So perfect chord, or perfect, sorry, major triad, minor triad, diminished triad. All that, hopefully that makes it a little clearer. If it's still not, then let me know and I can think of another way to explain it. So I'm sure you're thinking, well, that's all well and good for the major scales, but what about the minor scales? Well, I'm glad you asked. Minor scales have a different relationship, and their note, their chords are going to be different accordingly. So I will post the slide for that as well. That's coming up right now. So this is a really good one to just play so you can hear it. So in a minor scale, um, one, see, 1 and 4 are minor, 2 and 7 are diminished, 3, 5, and 6 are major, and 4, I'm sorry, yeah. And it depends on how you play the fourth, because you can have an augmented one if you raise the fourth, but we're not going to worry about that one right now. So if you guys can all look at that slide, assuming you can all get it open. So you'll see we have the 1 lowercase, and then the 2 is lowercase with the degree sign, so that's diminished. 3 is uppercase, and so that's major. You'll see 3 with the little plus sign next to it. That's augmented. That means we took the fifth of the chord, and so the third is still a major third, and then the fifth goes up a semitone, and so that's augmented. That little plus sign. The 4 is minor, the 5 is major, the 6 is major, and the 7th is still diminished. That all makes sense so far? I can play it out for you, and you can hear kind of how it goes here. Here we can get a good view of the keyboard. Okay, so we have, moved over here. So 1, that's minor. 2 is diminished. 3 is major. 4 is minor. 5 is major. Well, it should be if we raise that one, because we're usually raising that one. If you remember scale, if you remember our minor scales, and then 6 is major, and then 7th is still diminished. Hopefully that makes sense. And then we're back to 1, which is still minor. So oftentimes, if you're looking at this, you will need to really count and see, okay, is this a major third? Is this a minor third? Is this a perfect fifth? Is this diminished? Is this augmented? I will 100% admit, if I'm looking at chords, I still have to stack them in order and be like, okay, what is this chord? It's the kind of thing like a lot of pianists and guitarists can do like that, but most of us can't. We have to look at it and say, okay, we're in F major, and so this starts on G. G is the lowest note, so this is going to be a 2 chord, but for some reason the third is the third is lower, so it's already a minor because it's 2 and all this kind of stuff. So the minor scale I just played was A minor, so that's the sorry, it's no sharps or flats, so it's the it's not parallel, relative minor of C major. I was thinking parallel minor. It's not the parallel minor. So the relative minor of C major is A minor. Uh, Harmonic, because we're playing chords. So we always assume harmonic minor because chords, because we're playing harmonies. Go through augmented. Okay, so when we're doing triads, so if we have our bottom note, our middle note, and our top note. So if we're bumping up the fifth or the top note, then that's augmented. I don't think we ever up the. Actually, this is a good question now that Mike's home. Mike, would you ever augment the third? Would you bring the third up in semitone for any reason in any triad? I've never heard of it, but yeah, it would be a suspension. Okay. No, it's never for the third. It's the top note is for augmented. The top note is the one that's raised. So I'll show you all the possibilities we have here. So we have 1, 3. So major. If we lower the third, it's minor. If we lower the fifth, it's diminished. If we go back to major and we raise the fifth, it's augmented. But we would never raise the fourth because that would just be weird. That's not a thing we do. Don't know why. Somebody never gave it a name and never made it part of the curriculum, so that's just a suspension, which is not part of what we're doing today. The suspensions are wonderful, and I love them a lot. They add lots of tension to music, and they're a fabulous thing. Okay, so does all of that make sense? So you can't change one, because as soon as you change one, you're on a different chord, right? Because we base the chord on wherever we're starting. Whatever the lowest note is the tonic of that chord. So as soon as we change one, if we move it up or down a semitone, we're on a different chord. So 3 we can move up or down. If we move it down, it's minor. Oh no, sorry, we can only move 3 down. And then it's minor. If we move the 5 down with it, it's diminished. And if we put 3 back where it was and move 5 up, it's augmented. Hopefully that makes sense. Those are all the types of chords you're going to be dealing with right now. There are many more types of chords. Many, 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 many more types of chords. And I don't even know them all. But Mike does, and so that's why I have him here to remind me what chords are. So you get into like major minor sevens with, an added 13, um, with a suspension in the middle for jazz. Jazz does crazy things with chords. They just keep adding notes until they run out. Fun times. Okay, so that is it for chords. That's kind of where I wanted to end off today. The chord theory is something you just keep doing until the end of your life. So there's more complexity we can add to it over time, and we'll learn a little bit more. But that's all I wanted to cover for today. Does anyone want me to go over anything again, or have any questions, or is confused about anything? Is anything not making sense? And again, you're welcome to send me messages on Facebook or whatever. If you're like, I was trying this thing, or I'm trying to remember how this goes, and I do not remember, can you go over this again? Feel free. It's not like I have a lot going on right now, nor does really most people. Um, is everybody okay? Can't wait for chord progressions. Well, we kind of did that already. You now know all the chords. You can play your your 4 chord songs. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Is there any way to train the ear to distinguish between diminished and augmented? Yes, there is. Oh, Macarius. Hey! Joining us from Hong Kong. Good to see you. Nina got very excited when I said that. She's like, someone's here. Um, this is something that's just called ear training. In university, we take a full-time class in this for the entire length of your degree. Um, Macarius just woke up. Yeah, it's got to be fairly early there. Like what, 10 a.m. or something? Um, so ear training is something as musicians we do a lot of, and it starts off very, very basic, and it'll be stuff like intervals. So you listen to a major third versus a minor third. You'll listen to fifths and sevenths and everything else, and you will try to identify them. There are some really good apps that I highly recommend. The one I think it's called Perfect Ear is one I really like, and it's basically just ear training. Yeah, Perfect Ear, that's the one. So download it and just have a listen. 9:30ish in Hong Kong. Oh, okay. Um, so download it and it'll just play intervals, and then it'll start playing chords, and then it'll start playing other things. It can get to the point where when I was in like third year, no, I think even in second year ear training, they call it oral skills, which is not a good name. AURAL, but boy, did the jokes never stop about oral skills classes. Um, so it got to the point, even in like second year oral skills, they'd play a melody for us and with chords underneath, and we'd have to just write the whole thing down. So we'd have to write down the melody, we'd have to write down what chords were being played underneath it. So left hand and right hand on a piano. Sometimes it would be a matter of they'd put pieces in front of us and we'd have to sing them. Sometimes it's just distinguishing it by sight, but a lot training your ear is something that musicians do a ton of and spend a lot of time on. So if you got some time to kill, which probably a lot of you do, download one of these apps and try it out, because you just have to hear it like a few dozen times for like, oh, okay, that's what a perfect fourth sounds like. That's what a seventh sounds like. So yeah, difference between diminished and augmented, like major sounds happy, minor sounds sad, diminished sounds creepy, and augmented sounds like haunted carnival, kind of. So we have major, minor, diminished, and then augmented. I don't know if you can hear the difference already, but you'll like, oh, okay, those are starting to sound familiar. But for us, we do out like hours and hours and hours of training every year for years to learn this kind of stuff, just to get better at it. So it's a really good thing to practice, and you'll get better. And once you can learn to hear intervals, your sight reading gets a lot better. So if you're sight singing and you're like, oh, there's a six, I know what a six sounds like, and you can just sing the six. Or it's like, oh, I've sung this scale 100 times, so I can just sing this scale. um, up and down and whatever. Oh, there's a minor scale or it's a harmonic minor scale. I can sing this, no problem. I know how this goes. Or this is a weird interval, but I know what it is. I know what it sounds like. So you get better because ear training is like handing your brain puzzle pieces and your brain just starts fitting them together until you have a pretty complete idea. So I'm at the point now I can sight read with about 90% accuracy most things that are put in front of me. And that's just sheer repetition. Just I've done it so much, I'm like, okay, I think I know how this goes. So I highly recommend it. Perfect ear, or if you find a better one, have a look at that. Otherwise, we'll do probably more chord theory next week. This is actually the most I've never gone past this point in music theory, so now I actually have to start writing more slides and doing more research. So next week we'll get a little more advanced. But are there any other questions before we finish off? Anything else anyone wants to know? If we get to jazz theory, I'm going to be making Mike write a lot of this for me because he's the jazzer and I'm not. I'm terrible at jazz theory. Get into all of our 7 chords. So all of these guys, or 9s, or 11s, or 13s. Fun times. Okay, if nobody has any questions, I guess we'll finish up now. If you have anything you want to know or anything else you want to learn that we haven't covered, I can add it to next week. If not, yeah, I guess we'll see you guys all next week, and stay safe and stay healthy and happy and try not to go insane from the apocalypse. Oh, and of course, Mina has to join us to say goodbye. Thank you for burping in my face. That was really nice. Thank you. Yeah. All righty. Everybody have a great day and a great weekend and stay happy and healthy. Bye.